I travel a lot. Without getting too deep into the details of my career, let's just say my job takes me around the world. I've been to nearly every continent except Antarctica, and the list of countries I haven't set foot in shrinks every year. And honestly, I love it. I've experienced cultures, customs, and lives so vastly different from my own. Each time I step into a new country, I have a tradition. Buy a small keepsake, something to mark the moment. Could be anything, an ornament, a book, a shot glass. Just something I can look at years later and remember where I was when I first got it. A few months ago, I was sent to Algeria to help oversee a business deal for a client. After the work wrapped up, I had a few days to explore the capital city, Algiers. On the last day before my flight back home, I decided to take one final stroll through one of the many bazaars I'd come to love walking through. I had already made up my mind to buy something, a memento. I passed stalls of fruit, spice vendors, handcrafted jewelry, until I saw it. Sitting alone on a cluttered table full of random trinkets was a journal. An old, leather-bound journal held shut with what looked like a belt. The leather was cracked and scorched, like it had sat under desert sun for decades. The page edges were yellow, curled with age. Naturally, I asked the vendor where it came from. He hesitated, said he'd found it during his travels but wouldn't elaborate. In fact, he looked almost uncomfortable. That only piqued my interest more. When he gave me a price, I paid immediately. It was cheap, way too cheap in hindsight. As I walked away, I chanced to look over my shoulder. The vendor was staring at me, hard, like intensely. His eyes didn't follow any other customer, just me. I don't know why, but it sent a chill through me. That night in my hotel, I couldn't sleep. After tossing and turning for hours, I finally gave up, sat up in bed, and grabbed the journal. I undid the buckle, opened it, and found something I didn't expect. The entries were written in English. The journal belonged to a British explorer named Liam Wentworth. According to the dates, the entries were from the late 1940s through the early 1950s. As I started reading, I was pulled into his world. Expeditions across Europe and Africa, treks through wild landscapes, encounters with tribes and ruins. His writing was vivid, full of energy. It almost felt like I was there with him, but that feeling changed. When I reached the final expedition, everything shifted. From the first sentence, something felt off. The tone, the atmosphere. It was darker. A creeping dread began to settle in my chest. Gone was the thrill of adventure. In its place, tension, paranoia, fear. Real fear. The kind that makes the hair on your arms stand up. The kind that makes you turn on every light in your room just to banish the shadows from the corners. The last pages of the journal were stained with something dark and dry. I told myself it was water damage, but even now, I don't believe that. When my plane took off the next morning, I looked out over the Algerian desert one last time, and I shuddered. For months, I didn't know what to do with the journal. Part of me wanted to take it to a historian. Another part worried I'd be laughed off, told it was fake, a hoax, a prank. But the dreams, the nightmares, they didn't stop. So now, I've decided to share it, as it was written. These are the final entries of Liam Wentworth's last expedition. Make of them what you will. Monday, the 23rd of June, 1952. After 4 months of rest, another adventure begins. 2 weeks ago, I received a call at home from a wealthy American businessman named Tally. A mutual acquaintance, Mr. Danvers, had apparently spoken highly of me after our expedition to Mauritania. When Tally mentioned a similar venture, this time in Algeria, he said my name was the first to come up. Tally offered me a fee I couldn't refuse. Triple what even film stars are paid. With my sister's health always hanging by a thread, I accepted without hesitation. Now, after a series of connecting flights from London, I'm here, in Algiers. The rest of the team has gathered. Tally met me at the airport, tall, lanky, with thinning black hair. He didn't strike me as the adventurer type. That worried me. Too many expeditions have failed due to rich sponsors with no field experience. Still, my fears were eased somewhat after meeting the others at a nearby cafe. 9 members in total. 3 of them I've worked with before. Sane. A towering man, quiet but reliable. Roar. A stoic German with a presence that demands respect. Moretti. An arrogant Italian, but a brilliant leader when it counts. Among the new faces, Blake, our archaeologist, British, stunning, like she belongs on a movie screen. Corin, the medic, scars on his face hint at a violent past, likely from the war. Samir, one of our 2 guides, wild beard, sharp eyes, TK. The second guide, young, barely 20, didn't say a word when introduced, just nodded. Something about TK unsettles me. He feels off. But Tally and Moretti insist he's crucial. Indispensable, they say. And then came the bombshell. Over dinner, Tally leaned in, lowered his voice, and told us why we were really here. He'd heard whispers during his dealings in the region, rumors of a lost Ottoman fortress buried somewhere deep in the desert mountain ranges. Not just a military outpost, but a hidden stronghold. 15 years ago, a group of soldiers from the French Foreign Legion had discovered it. According to the story, they were looking for shelter, fleeing a sandstorm, when they stumbled upon the structure. It had been long abandoned, but they found something else. A water pump, still functional, radio equipment, storage rooms. They set up base and maintained contact with their commanders for 5 months. Then one day, the radio went silent. No responses, no updates. A reinforcement group was sent. They too vanished. Eventually, the area was declared hostile territory, and all attempts to reach the fortress were forbidden. Then came the war, and the location, along with all official records, were lost. But Tally had found a map, one of the last that marked the location. When he finished, I asked what any sane man would ask. "And how exactly does this tie into the treasure you mentioned?" He smiled. That damn smile. "You haven't heard the best part, my dear boy. According to a final radio transmission made before the fort went dark, the soldiers had broken into a sealed chamber within the fort. Inside, they had found a cache of treasure, jewels, coins, and artifacts believed to date back to the Ottoman Empire. No one knew the full value. No one ever would, because no one ever left the fortress." Tally then delivered the final pitch. "If we found nothing, we'd still be paid our full wages. But if the treasure was real, it would be split evenly between all of us." For a moment there was silence. Then I said, "Yes. Bloody hell. Yes." And with that, everyone else agreed. We were committed. Hooked by the legend, lured by the gold. But I couldn't ignore the other part of the story. 2 groups of trained soldiers had vanished without a trace. I told myself it was just superstition, that we were better equipped, better prepared. But that whisper of unease, it was back. Tuesday, the 24th of June, 1952. We left before sunrise, boarded a chartered plane south to Insala. There, 2 Land Rovers awaited us, custom ordered, loaded with fuel and provisions, supplies to last us a fortnight. We drove westward following the map. The heat was punishing. The kind that turns metal into a furnace and skin into parchment. By midday, we were already rationing water. I rode with Tally, and I brought up TK, his silence, his stare, that unsettling aura. Tally told me that TK was one of the few men alive who claimed to have seen the fortress. As a boy, traveling the desert with his father and grandfather, he saw it perched high on the mountain ridge, a silhouette against the sky. His elders warned him to stay away, called it cursed. Tally scoffed. Local superstition, he said, waving it off. I tried to laugh with him, but I couldn't. His bravado only deepened my anxiety. I asked, what if TK was lying? What if this was all some elaborate con? Tally responded by lifting his shirt, revealing a pistol holstered at his waist. We're all armed, Liam. Just in case. Don't worry. I've thought of everything. I didn't press the issue. But that night, as the firelight flickered and the desert wind howled, I felt eyes on me, and I wasn't alone. Thursday, the 26th of June, 1952. After another full day of driving and following directions Samir translated from TK, we finally reached the base of a jagged mountain range. TK pointed to it, nodding. These were the mountains from his memory. We were close. The others were excited. Some even laughed. It felt like we were on the verge of something monumental, but I couldn't join them. As I stared up at the peaks, that old familiar dread crept in. And this time, it didn't fade. Friday, the 27th of June, 1952. It's real. The fortress exists, just like the legend. Perched high in the rocks, its silhouette carved against the desert sky. A trio of turrets, walls rising like ancient guardians, strategic, isolated, perfectly placed. Blake confirmed the architecture matched Ottoman design. Best of all, no climbing ropes required. TK showed us a staircase chiseled into the mountain itself. Steep, yes, but walkable. We'll make the ascent tomorrow. Tonight we rest. But that feeling, the dread, it's not just mine anymore. I see it in the others' eyes. They're starting to feel it too. Saturday, the 28th of June, 1952. I'm writing this from inside the central courtyard of the fortress. We made it. The climb was brutal. Steep, narrow steps worn down by centuries of wind and sand. But we reached the top safely. Sane bloodied his knuckles catching someone during a slip, but otherwise, we're all fine. A path, barely visible under sweeping dunes, led us to a rusted iron gate. TK pointed us forward. Roar, ever the cautious one, closed the gate behind us and lowered an old barrier. Better not to leave it open, he muttered. Then we saw it. A rusted FT tank, half buried in sand, its turret facing away from the fort, as if guarding against something inside. I couldn't help but wonder, why position it like that? We pushed open the colossal wooden doors, and entered the fort. The courtyard stretched wide and silent. Two main buildings stood within, a massive structure labeled living quarters and a sunken one marked arsenal. To the side, a smaller courtyard held something unexpected. A water garden, battered palms, a fountain, a rusted pump. I tested the water. It tasted stale but drinkable. The pump still worked. "There's an underground reservoir," Moretti said. "We won't run out." For the first time, we let ourselves breathe. But the feeling of being watched, that didn't go away. We explored the living quarters first. Decay ruled here. Beams had collapsed, sand formed drifts in the halls, and dust hung in the air like fog. But traces of habitation remained. Rugs, pillows, even half-melted candles hanging from the rafters. We lit lamps as we went. The radio room was in ruins. The equipment, radio and telegraph, had been violently destroyed. Someone wanted to make damn sure no one could call for help. Signs of struggle were everywhere. Upturned chairs, broken glass, even faint stains in the wood. Sane. Roar, and I noticed. The others didn't. We'd seen this before. And then I felt it. Something brushing the nape of my neck. I spun around, heart pounding. No one there, just creaking wood and the sound of wind. With daylight fading, we moved to the arsenal. Inside the old jail cell, we found a body. A man in a French Foreign Legion uniform, long dead. Curled into a corner, locked inside the cell. Keys still clutched in his hand. No wounds, no sign of trauma. He had sealed himself in and waited to die. Starvation, Moretti murmured. Or thirst. His choice. We returned to the water garden to set up camp. The tents offered less protection, but I couldn't imagine sleeping in those cursed quarters. I feel like something still lingers here. And worse, I feel like it's aware of us, watching, waiting. I keep thinking of that dead soldier. What terror could make a man lock himself in a cell and choose a slow death over facing what lay outside? Monday, 30th of June, 1952. 2 days have passed. We've searched every chamber, every room. No treasure, no secret chamber, nothing. Tally tries to keep spirits high, but I can see the frustration behind his eyes. It's spreading. That feeling is spreading too. The unease is no longer just mine. We've found more signs of a struggle. Deep scratch marks, fingernails etched into stone, empty casings, drag marks. People were pulled away here. Alive. I've caught TK and Samir whispering more than once. When I approach, they fall silent. Blake stays close to me now. Says it's because we're both British. But I think she just doesn't want to be alone. Corin's starting to twitch. The war taught me that paranoia, left unchecked, is what breaks men fastest. And it's begun. Tuesday, 1st of July, 1952. We are trapped. Sometime during the night, part of the staircase collapsed. Over 200 feet of stone is now rubble. There's no way down. We considered climbing, but with no ropes, it's suicide. TK claims he remembers another path down, a narrow ridge farther west. We deliberated quickly. Samir and Roar volunteered to find it. We armed them with pistols, torches, and rations. "We'll be back by nightfall," Samir promised. It is now past midnight. They haven't returned. I don't know if they fell or ran. but I keep hearing things. Not voices, not footsteps, cracks, like stone under pressure, short, sharp, like something moving, something testing the walls. I hope I'm wrong, but I fear I'm not. Wednesday, 2nd of July, 1952. No sign of Samir or Roar. At dawn, I volunteered to search for them. Blake insisted on coming. Corin, too, said if they were hurt, they'd need a medic. Moretti handed me the shotgun. We followed the tracks west, across boulders and narrow ledges until we reached a flat plateau. And that's where the tracks stopped. Completely. In the center of the clearing, they simply ended. We stood there, stunned. Corin swore. Where the hell did they go? That's when I noticed the pattern. The tracks, before ending, had become erratic, like the two men had begun spinning wildly, circling, searching, panicking. I found brass casings, spent rounds, buried in the sand, still warm from the sun. Then Blake gasped. A smear of blood trailed up the stone face, upward. Something had dragged one of them up the cliff. I raised the shotgun instinctively. Nothing moved. But the silence was heavy. It felt like a threat. We backed away slowly, watching the shadows, watching the cliffs. But something was watching us too. Of that, I have no doubt. When we returned to the fort, we told the others everything. About the tracks ending, about the bullet casings, about the blood trail going up. Nobody spoke. The silence between us was thick, smothering. Then TK began to whimper, and then babble, rambling in Arabic, his voice rising. We tried to calm him. Moretti asked him questions in Arabic. TK just kept repeating one phrase again and again. "They are in the mountains. They hunt in the mountains. My grandfather warned me. My father warned me." Then he bolted, ran for the living quarters and slammed the door behind him. Didn't lock it. Tally looked at all of us. "We need a plan," he said, and so we made one. We'd move inside the living quarters, barricade ourselves in. Blake said she could try to repair the radio and telegraph, maybe get a signal out. We moved quickly, grabbed supplies, hauled everything inside, bolted the doors. That night, we took turns on patrol. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. Every creak of the old building made my heart skip. Every gust of wind sounded like footsteps. Every flickering shadow looked wrong. I prayed I wouldn't wake to something standing over me. Thursday, 3rd of July, 1952. Good news, finally. Blake inspected both the radio and the telegraph. Somehow, the damage wasn't permanent. With some parts from our supplies and some found in the quarters, she estimated she could have both working within 2 to 3 days. That hope, it lit something in us. Like maybe, just maybe, we could make it out. We stayed inside all day, only ventured out to collect water from the fountain. Even that short walk, just a few steps beyond the wall, felt dangerous, exposed. Every second outside felt like we were being watched. No, it didn't feel like it. We were being watched. I could sense it, like eyes following every step, every breath. I don't think it's just animals or ghosts. I think it's worse. TK has completely withdrawn, hides in a closet, only comes out for food and water. When spoken to, he repeats that same phrase. They hunt in the mountains. As I searched the upper levels, I found something that might help. 2 flare guns. Old, but loaded. They might be our last hope if someone happens to be nearby, if anyone is out there. The sun is setting now, and whatever comfort daylight brought is dying with it. Friday, 4th of July, 1952. The screams. God help me. I'll never forget the screams. Sane and I were on the first patrol shift, 1:30 in the morning. It started faint, like wind whistling down a canyon. Then it grew louder, closer. I froze, gun drawn. My hand trembled. Sayan appeared beside me, eyes wide. "I hear it too," he said. Then came the first real scream, high-pitched, human, followed by another. 2 voices, overlapping, crying out in pain and terror. And then we recognized them. Samir. Roar. Blake clutched my arm. Her whole body shook. "That's them," she whispered. "That's them." Tally snapped, tried to run for the door. Sand tackled him. "It's a trap," Moretti yelled. "They want us to follow the sound." They were right. Whoever or whatever was out there. They knew how to manipulate us. They were luring us, using the voices of the lost. The screams faded eventually, replaced by silence, and somehow that silence was worse. Saturday, the 5th of July, 1952. The radio's ready. Blake finished repairs today. We gathered around her as she powered it on. For a moment, we had hope. She tuned the frequency, pressed the transmit key. Static. Then voices, whispers, dozens of them. In a language none of us recognized. Not Arabic, not human. Then screams, Samir, Roar, and others. Then nothing. The radio died. Wouldn't turn back on. She tried the telegraph, tapped out an SOS, an immediate reply. Too fast. Inhumanly fast. She pulled the slip of paper, read it. Her face went pale. It says, "No saving." Sunday, the 6th of July, 1952. San is gone. Moretti woke me before dawn. The shotgun San carried was found, leaning against a wall, but no sign of him. No blood, no struggle, just gone. Vanished. TK remains locked in the closet, refuses to help. I swear I see something in the rafters sometimes, moving, watching. Sunday, later that night. The screams came again. This time, we heard Sane's voice among them. It broke me. Monday, the 7th of July, 1952. TK is dead. We found the front door open. His footprints led out across the courtyard. To the cliff's edge. He jumped. We looked down, saw his body broken on the rocks below. Painted on the closet wall, he left a final message. Death is better than what awaits those who are taken. He knew. He knew what happened to the others. And he chose death. Tuesday, the 8th of July, 1952. I saw them. God help me. I saw them. Tally woke me for patrol. I grabbed my torch and revolver. As I passed the window overlooking the courtyard, the sensation returned. The feeling of being watched. I hesitated, flicked on the torch, aimed it out the window. And there it was, perched like some nightmarish predator atop the roof of the armory. It looked at me. Then it leapt away. But in that moment, I saw it clearly. Sunken eyes, a face stretched into something inhuman, jaws filled with jagged yellow teeth. Its body was thin, starved-looking, and wore tattered remains of a uniform. Not just any uniform. A French Foreign Legion uniform. The same kind we saw on the corpse in the jail cell. Then, another one appeared in the torch beam. This one wore a fresher uniform. Roar's uniform. They didn't kill them. They changed them, twisted them, turned them into things. Like predators using the bodies of prey as camouflage. And the worst part? They remember enough to trick us, lure us, mimic us. I haven't told the others, I can't. They still hold on to hope. I've let that hope die in me. Wednesday, 9th of July, 1952. These will be my final words. They took everyone else. It began with screaming, again. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the mountains. It came from inside, from us. Corin had snapped. We found Tally's body in the hallway. A flare had been fired into his mouth. The smell of burnt flesh was unbearable. Corin stood there holding the flare gun, eyes wide, grinning. He shoved past us and ran, down to the armory. We followed, carefully. Inside the armory, we found the hidden chamber. The treasure was real, gold, jewels, ancient coins, piled high. At that moment, we should have felt something. Victory, triumph. But we didn't, because it meant the legends were true. All of it. Corin had locked himself in the jail, ranting. "It's mine! All mine!" We left him, tried to retreat back to the living quarters, but they were waiting for us. Moretti never had a chance. One of them dropped from the rafters, pulled him into the air, and vanished into the black. Blake and I ran, fired, screamed, made it to the fountain. We slumped against the wall, panting. She wiped sweat from my face. I helped her drink. "What do we do now?" she asked. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I knew what was coming. Nightfall, and they would return. I made a choice. The only mercy I could give her. She didn't see it coming. She smiled at me, and I pulled the trigger. Now it's just me. I will follow TK's path. Better death by stone than what waits in the shadows. If someone finds this journal, please burn this place to the ground. Tell my sister in Maidenhead that I'm sorry, and for God's sake, do not come looking. They're still up there, waiting, watching, hunting. The final entry of Liam Wentworth, July 9th, 1952.